So to complete the quad, we are going to do Dynasty quarterbacks, the top 12 Dynasty quarterbacks. So if you're in a super flex league, you probably are like, well, why aren't y'all doing 24? I get it. We're only doing 12. I don't even think we could have found a list of 24 quarterbacks that are going to be on a roster next season. I mean, after about 15, it got a little dicey of who's even going to be playing in the league next season.
It's looking pretty bleak for quarterbacks. So hopefully you have one of these 12 guys.
Yeah, even the bottom of the 12 was looking rough. I was like, man, I don't even want to put this person there. So
yes, there's a lot of developmental people out there, like Kenny Pickett didn't make the list, for example, but we'll get into him. But let's just start right at number 12. And Joe, I'm going to hand off the controversial number 12 to you, who is Cleveland Browns quarterback DeShaun Watson.
So we're just going to massage our way right into this. Okay.
Yes.
At number 12, we have DeShaun Watson. He is absolutely, his talent's undeniable. What he didn't say, he's awesome. Cleveland gave up, $500 million to bring him Cleveland to be the quarterback for the foreseeable future here. Now, we've seen what DeShaun Watson can do. The question is the 2 years off and all the stuff going on in his life absolutely is he going to recover from it, right? He's got the weapon with Amari Cooper there. He's got the running game. DPJ is actually coming on really nice, and Njoku's there. So he's got a really good supporting cast. I assume they add to that coming up here. But the question is he going to make it back to where he is? If he does, he could be a top 3, top 5 quarterback for dynasty purposes. We have him down at 12 just because it's a little bit sketchy right now.
Yeah, and I mean, so one thing that people forget is that Houston's defense is actually good, just because their offense is so bad. So his first game back against his former team did not look good. Obviously, he did come back against Cincinnati and put up a salvageable performance. So hopefully, if you're riding on DeShaun Watson, I honestly think he's usable right now. I don't think it's great, but I think he has something to prove. He's going to shake off some rust. I'm not saying I would want to trot him out there. Hopefully you have better options, but if you don't have anyone else on this list in the playoffs, I mean, he's got a pretty decent matchups coming up. They're not great, but they're not terrible. And they're going to need to play. I mean, Cleveland's not really, they're sort of in it, but at the same time, it's more of we got to prove that this was a deal worth it. So he's going to play till the end of the season. You should get some decent work out of him. And I think in the future, I mean, once he kind of gets a year under his belt, once they start building around him a little bit more, and maybe utilizing some of their rookie receivers, like David Bell hasn't really had been in the fold at all. Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper's locked up. So, I mean, there's some weapons here. We got Njoku, top 12 tight end on the team. I mean, they got running backs, so at least one coming back. This is a good offense, all things considered, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the offseason.
He's definitely been rusty this season so far. I mean, I think the second half of that Bengals game, he really kind of was starting to look like his old self a little bit. After the first half was a complete disaster, Houston was a complete disaster as well. But I'm hoping that as the season goes on, and maybe after this off season of actually getting to do everything with the team, that maybe he can come back and actually be what he's supposed to be and advertised as. I know a lot of people are going to be wishing on his downfall. There's going to be a lot of people in the fantasy community who are just going to, say, I don't want anything to do with him.
It's understandable.
I love that sentiment, but at the same time, we are trying to help people win here. So, I mean, we have to separate the art from the artist a little bit and, just explain he is going to be probably a top 12 quarterback going forward. I do think there is a element of mystery still around him because, what is this team going to look like? Are they going to keep Stefanski? How is this team going to shape itself in the offseason and make it more DeShaun Watson friendly? Because I don't think it's going to be quite what it's been for the years past. So there is still an element of mystery here, and that's probably why I have him low. When we all have him pretty low, is we just don't know what we're fully going to get here.
Yeah, and moving forward, if he doesn't turn that corner this year and he doesn't have his breakout game where he's back, you need to be trying to acquire him everywhere as a quarterback for your team, because I loved where we were getting him this year, in startups and even trades and stuff for DeShaun Watson, where he was going for next to nothing. And understandably so, people aren't happy with him, and I get that. But like you said, Billy, we're trying to win, and if he has a lull season right now, he's a great piece to acquire for your team.
Yeah. I just, let's all just hope they can rein him in the offseason, because that would be the only thing that could hold him back at this point.
We all hope
on to number 11, and that is Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I would love to talk about Trevor Lawrence here. So we kind of thought when Trevor Lawrence came in that he was going to be a prodigy, and we thought he was going to be this and that. We thought he was going to be this quarterback that, was going to come in and change everything for, Jacksonville. Well, because of one coach whose name is going to be omitted, because we are doing a YouTube video here and I don't want to have to make Josh cut around it. Because of the coach's name who was omitted, he kind of had a stunted first season. The growth was not there. He looked really, really bad at times. You kind of wondered who exactly he was going to be as a quarterback based off of 1 year, which is crazy because quarterbacks deserve longer than that. But we thought because of his, prodigy type of thing, we thought he was going to pick it up right away. And the second season has been quite a bit better. I think we can all agree that, especially as the season's gone on, he's really found his own footing. He's really figured out this offense quite well. Doug Peterson seems to be, getting him pushed in the right direction. I think we can all think that and look at the red zone numbers and kind of say that is where they need to shore up in this offseason. But that's kind of, this is first year we're working things out, seeing what does work, seeing what doesn't work. Got Etienne back in the fold. We get Ridley back next season. We got Christian Kirk locked up long term. So I think this still offense is in its infancy. And I think going forward, Trevor Lawrence is going to have a bigger breakout, next season even.
I completely agree. Honestly, I feel like not that this is about the James Robinson or anything, but that was honestly one of their biggest mistakes this year because it was working between the two of him and Etienne. But no, it's crazy to see Trevor Lawrence as QB8 after this year. It really didn't seem like it. On the screen, it's basically pulled up the last 7 games, and it looks great. Obviously there's some misses in there, one against Denver, and then the game against Detroit wasn't that great, but the 3 touchdowns are coming. This is not what we saw last year. He's a big man too. At 6'6", he's going to be out there, basically going to completely surpass everything. The touchdown interception ratio is just way better. This is just a better offense. This is a better quarterback. And I think we're back to what we thought Trevor Lawrence could be. We never really assumed he was going to leapfrog Mahomes immediately or anything, but at the same time, a top 10 quarterback, I don't think is a stretch. So we probably should have him higher, honestly.
We probably should. I had him a little bit higher. I just think the breakouts here, it's come. Last 6 weeks, I think he's had three 300-yard games, multiple 3 touchdown, 2 touchdown. He's looking good. He's building the chemistry with his receivers. Christian Kirk's there for a while. Zay Jones is there for a while. So if they continue to grow that team around him, I think the sky is pretty much the limit for this guy.
Yeah, obviously Kirk hasn't been the best receiver for him, but coming
Kirk's
into
good too.
Well, yeah, when Calvin Ridley comes back next year, it's going to be a really nice combination there. Honestly, I kind of want to bump him up my rankings now. So
I hope. And we say this every year with the Jaguars. I just hope all of that goes smoothly. Ridley comes in there. They're all meshing very well. It's just this team, man. It always seems like there's just one thing that ends up exploding their chances of being a cohesive unit on offense. And God, I really hope everything goes well. It's just sad to see what's happened to them so far. All right, on to number 10. And I will hand it off to Josh, and that is Arizona Cardinal Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and this comes at really unfortunate time because of the ACL tear, which we all pretty much knew the second we saw it. But Kyler Murray is a different kind. Yes, he's not as big as Trevor Lawrence. That 5'10" is going to hold him back a little bit. But what he does with his legs hopefully slows down after next year because of this. But what he does with his legs and his explosiveness in general, and then not to mention the offense that they have on that team with Marquise Brown and Hopkins, and I assume they'll probably get a new running back eventually, but for some reason, James Conner at the moment, it's impressive what Kyler Murray does. We would love to see a fully healthy season. We haven't seen one since 2020. And honestly, in his rookie and sophomore years, 6-3 quarterback on the year, and then you add in some injuries, and he's still relatively relevant in the top 10. So had he played the full year, I assume he would have easily made the top 10. And it's hard to look at his resume here and say, no, he's not a top 10 quarterback. Some person in this podcast might say that.
Yes,
have at it, Joe.
All right, I got him at 12. He's still in my top 12. This injury definitely affects it, brings it down. We just have not seen what I've been looking for from Kyler Murray. I call him Mighty Mouse. He can't see over his line. He has stud wide receivers there, which I absolutely love. If you take away the rushing element of Kyler Murray's game, you have a younger Kirk Cousins, which is really solid. But I don't think he belongs in the top 12 on here. Or beyond that, up in the top 10. I really don't. I got to see it from him. Maybe if they get rid of Kingsbury or Cliff and all that stuff, we can see some big improvement from Kyler Murray. But as of right now, watching this whole team, it just looks very dysfunctional. He misses when he shouldn't. The offense just looks kind of ugh. And you see Colt McCoy stumble his way into similar stats that Kyler Murray has. So until I see something different on their end, I'm not very high on Kyler Murray.
No, I will say I will disagree with the Colt McCoy just walked in because Colt McCoy did not look accurate. He did not look like Kyler Murray would have. He did not put them in that game. There was a little bit of time where we were like, oh, maybe he'll just be fine, but he wasn't. I mean, he's not Kyler Murray.
So that was one game. Last year he had some – Colt McCoy did just about what Kyler was doing as well when he was hurt. Billy, what you got?
Oh, it's true. And so, I mean, the thing about Kyler Murray is they've got to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury. Like, it's just not working, and his offense is not working. And Cliff Kingsbury – I'll just do the Cliff Kingsbury thing. He failed his way up into this job, and it still has not made sense how he's been working this year. Had they not gone undefeated at the beginning last season, he probably would not have a job right now, but we're still living off of them going 10-0 last season, which was not based on anything Cliff Kingsbury did. The thing about Kyler Murray is he has terrible first half of the game when it's scripted, and then the second half when he has to go draw up, plays in the dirt on the playground because he's got to dig them out of a hole. That's when Kyler Murray looks electric. He puts in those massive throws and he scrambles, does the crazy, 2-point conversion earlier this season where he's running around all over the place to make something happen. Like, that is when Kyler Murray thrives, and that's not how it should work. And the thing is like, we got to get rid of Cliff in that offense. He cannot run it. I mean, the running game is a joke outside of the James Conner at the goal line thing. Like, that's the only play that works for Cliff when it comes to running game. And just simply, he's just not using his players to the best of their abilities. I mean, we should be seeing Trey McBride thrive in this offense, but we still don't. Not with Kyler, not with Colt. It's just not going to work. So he is a top 10 quarterback. He probably should be higher, but the thing is, I'm holding him back until they get rid of Cliff, because until Cliff is out of there, he cannot be fully realized as a player.
There's a couple people above him I could see him vaulting had he been in a better system. Or
the injury definitely knocked him down for me. I had him, but the one thing I will give Kyler is their line has just looked putrid this year. It's been getting destroyed. So maybe, I mean, he's got the wide receivers, he's got the tight ends, he's got the running backs, kind of, but something's got to change there. It's kind of like a square peg in a round hole, like Billy was saying. There's just something off that I'm not seeing what I like.
Yeah,
well,
the Trey McBride thing.
Problems. Like, that's the thing. They don't ever address their actual issues in the draft and in free agency. They go out and bring in, the trades, I guess, have been the best part when they brought in Zach Ertz, which was a very good addition for them. They bring in Marquise Brown at the beginning of the season. That connection was working quite well until Marquise Brown got hurt. Like, those have been the only thing that are working. Draft picks, I mean, the defensive ones have been meh at best. And then offensively, Rondale Moore is not even used in this offense, which is like, Cliff, why the hell did you even bring him in then? If you were planning a whole playbook around using Rondale Moore, why in the hell are we not using Rondale Moore? He did the same thing with Andy Isabella when he got there. Not really fully realized, not even on the team anymore. It's just, I don't know. Maybe this is a GM thing, which I don't want to talk too much about the GM, as they just announced today that he is going on leave for a medical emergency. So, I don't want to talk too much, but maybe it's the GM, maybe it's Cliff. I don't know. Both of them probably need to head on out.
Yeah.
Just
I think we're all in agreement about Kyler. The talent's there, but the play calling and the actual playing sometimes just doesn't match where he should be.
Not at all. Okay, on to number 9, and that is Dallas Cowboy Dak Prescott. Joseph,
all right,
talk about some Dak.
You can't say a whole lot bad about Dak. I mean, he had the injuries in the past. He had the injury this year. These guys have Dak higher than me. I have Dak at, was it 11 on there? Let me see what my list says. Yeah, I have Dak at 11. He's really solid. He's going to get you points. He's going to put through there. There's just, aside from a massive game here and there, that puts him behind a lot of these guys for the ceiling on a lot of them. Plus, you mix in Dallas's complete reliance on the run game. Obviously, Pollard might not be back there next year, but we assume Zeke's going to be. We assume they'll probably bring someone in and continue to run the ball in McCarthy's offense. So that is my knock on Dak Prescott, is he's very solid, but he's not necessarily electric.
So I ironically have Dak Prescott the highest out of the three of us, and the supreme reason being is because they are tied to Dak Prescott. And what they learned this year was they need another wide receiver. And they did just sign T.Y. Hilton, which is exciting for T.Y., making the playoff run instead of getting Odell. So there's a reason they were tying themselves to Odell so much, because they really realized that Amari Cooper leaving was a mistake on all parts. I understand they probably couldn't afford him. It's unfortunate, but pay the guys who make the plays for you. CeeDee Lamb's been just fine, and he's going to continue with Dak on and on. Honestly, I think right now is a great time. Well, I should say the offseason is a great time to acquire Dak Prescott. And I think that's why I like him for Dynasty. He is signed for 3 more years. Jerry Jones absolutely loves him, and they're going to continue to use him as much as possible. I know that they're relying on the run game a lot this year, but that's honestly because their defense is just holding everything right now. The defense is going to get weaker. People are going to figure out how to beat that in the future. And Dak Prescott's going to have to throw the ball. They just simply haven't had to throw the ball much this year. And that's kind of my take on Dak.
Dak Prescott's just kind of, for me, just like a Budweiser, a Bud Light, There's lots of good beers out there. Well, it's always solid. It's always a good drink, but it's nothing spectacular.
The thing you're getting with Dak is you're getting consistency, and you're getting a guy who's going to be playing for the future. If you have Kirk Cousins or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, you have no idea how much longer they're going to be playing at this point. Dak, that he's got a few more years in him and should be pretty decent in the future.
Joe just shipping off our chances of getting them as a sponsor. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
They should have called us already.
I had Dak Prescott at 9, which is where he ended up, ironically. The problem is, since the injury that he got, he has not looked the same. Last year, he did not look good at all. This year, he got injured at the beginning of the season, and, still, I feel like hasn't quite got back to what we expect Dak Prescott to be. I think this off season, they cannot afford not to upgrade his receiving core. CeeDee Lamb is special, and I do like the idea of the Cowboys just putting a quarterback and a receiver out there and just making it work. It has worked for a long time, but I just think maybe Dak Prescott maybe necessarily needs, he needs more help around him. He's got Schultz, he's got Lamb, but he needs those 3 and 4 wide receiver guys that can make this offense go to the next level.
Yeah, they definitely missed on Gallup this year. We thought that his role would stay about the same what it was last year, but he played better as that third receiver. And then Cedric Wilson leaving actually has hurt them a lot more than I thought it would whenever he got signed by Miami. And they just don't have any depth at wide receiver. If CeeDee Lamb were to get injured, this team goes from a playoff contender to a joke.
Yeah, well, they got Washington back from injury. He looked okay last week. Tolbert's still there developing, and Michael Gallup should have had a much bigger game last week, but did not. So, and
he's getting back into the swing of things for sure.
But I mean, I want to double down on the Bud Light thing, Bill. I think Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch, they know that Bud Light's very average, and they embrace it. Okay. I don't think they have higher.
Some people really think Bud Light's the best beer in the world out there, though.
I like the salvage of that. Yep, most of those people are from Southeast Missouri. Moving on.
Some people really like the state of Florida too.
And number 8 quarterback on this list is Baltimore Ravens for the time being. Quarterback Lamar Jackson. Me and Josh both have him at 8, so I'll go ahead and talk about him. Lamar Jackson, you know what you're getting every year. You're getting the rushing yards. You're not necessarily getting these high passing volume games. They at some point in time, the Baltimore Ravens have to address the receiver position. I get that they absolutely hate the idea of doing that. I don't know what beef they have with their wide receiver coach, because they set this guy up with DeShaun DeShaun Jackson could probably be coaching the wide receivers for Baltimore at this point in time. Like that's how old DeShaun Watson
And he
DeShaun
would be
Jackson
if they
is.
had a single wide receiver on their team.
Exactly. They're out there developing DeMarcus Robinson and all these cast off from other teams. I get that the idea is that they don't value that position. They think they just have Lamar, they have Mark Andrews, and they have the running backs. But thing is, as Lamar Jackson gets older, the chances of him being able to run every season is not, I mean, it goes down as the season goes on. He's already got an MCL injury this year. It just kept him out for a couple of games. And if you were relying on him to get you to the potential playoffs, I was in the league. He had gotten me to 9-5, and now I don't have him for my playoff run. You're kind of stuck. And that's the problem with having running quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, similar situation. And these guys either got to figure out how to upgrade the passing attack or, he's going to fall further. Like this is a guy that could potentially fall off this list if things go south.
What's wild to me is the fact that the Ravens are 9-4. It doesn't feel like it.
Nope.
It feels
Justin
like they've
Tucker,
lost
man.
a lot more games. I mean, I don't get me wrong. Justin Tucker's got a couple of those wins there, but no, Lamar is a phenomenal fantasy asset. But the problem is there is no passing. And that's the problem is running quarterbacks especially, have to at some point become pocket passers or at least some sort of throwing the ball. And that's what you're seeing with Jalen Hurts changing a little bit is you're not just seeing the running quarterback that he can be. And that's where Lamar Jackson really has stayed stagnant. I mean, you see there's the passing yards, one career year over 3,000. That's bad. And that was the MVP season of the quarterbacks of fantasy, I should say. So it's hard to say this is longevity when you see those rushing numbers already going down and then you see the passing numbers still going down. It's that at some point they need to swap.
Yeah. I have him a little bit higher than you guys just because basically Lamar Jackson can win you your week, hands down, run away with it at any point in time. And
Literally.
Yeah, he can literally run away with it. He can also take a poop on it like he did some other time, but we don't know the future of Lamar Jackson. He could not be in Baltimore next year. He could be playing for someone else. We don't know the contract situation. Obviously, injuries are a concern. And yes, you guys are right. He does have to learn how to pass the ball. But for right now, with the status of a lot of these other quarterbacks, I'm very comfortable having Lamar Jackson on my team.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having Lamar Jackson. If you have him in on your team, for example, you're probably pretty happy with that, and you're probably not trading him for anything cheap. But at the same time, all could be over in a blink, and that is what the dangerous part of having Lamar Jackson on your team is. But yeah, all right, on to number 7, and I'm gonna make his biggest hater talk about him. 7 is Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. Josh.
I'm just glad you said his name. I don't know how. But just to start off, I'm going to start off with just a little bit of hate. You see these last few games, and they're not looking as good anymore. And you want to know why? Because Tua's not actually that good. Why is he ranked highly? Because he has Tyreek Hill on his team. He has a guy who's going to get 2,000 receiving yards, and that means that he threw for 2,000 receiving or passing yards. So therefore, yes, he has to be on the list. And honestly, like Joe said, there's not a whole lot below the people that we started with. So obviously Tua can have those big games like the 35s and 30s that he's had. And then of course that 150 bomb against Baltimore. Tua he's increasingly better. He has all better numbers than he's ever had right now, other than I guess interceptions this first year. But he's not quite in that top 10 right now in like redraft. And this year he did miss a little bit of time, obviously. And we'll see how this works out in the future. But as long as Tyreek Hill's healthy, Tua is a top 8 quarterback. And I don't see any reason to say not.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, any play could, result in a 75-yard touchdown. And that's the kind of results you need from a quarterback, unless you're getting points for completions, which might not necessarily always be there. You're definitely going to get, the touchdowns, big plays. He's not giving anything with his legs, but this offense is predicated on Tua being amazing through the air, and Mike McDaniel, as long as he's there. And I think they're going to figure out how to make this offense hum. So I'm excited for this.
I was shocked to see his lack of rushing. I thought he ran a lot more.
No, They've got the backs running quite a bit though. But I mean, Tua is I know we're not talking about Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to bring it up for the second time. We like Kirk Cousins because of his supporting cast. He had Stephon Diggs. He had Adam Thielen. Now he's got Justin Jefferson. It's the same argument with Tua. It's the system and it's the talent around him that are going to lead him to perpetual fantasy goodness. Yes, you're going to have a couple games where it looks really nasty, falls on his face. But overall, when you look at it at the end of the season, you're going to be pretty happy with what you got out of him.
Fair enough. Yeah, as long as Mike McDaniels is in Miami, I don't have a problem with anybody going after Tua. I would say the scary part is when he faces good defenses, it tends to slack off. But at the same time, this is the first year for Mike McDaniels in that offense. They are figuring out what works in the playbook and what doesn't. And as long as they're completely and kind of churning out new ideas, I think Tua will be relevant. All right, on to number 6. It just happened to work out this way, and that is Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields. Joe, you jumped on a bed for this man.
F1. I did a backflip for this dude, man.
You did?
Yeah, I purposely had him lower than you guys just so I could talk to him, honestly. To talk about it. It's awesome.
Tanked his value.
Tanked his value. What can you say about Justin Fields other than it's just like, holy shit, watching this guy play is just absolutely electric. He broke an NFL record already for most 50-yard rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in their career. Maybe even a player. I don't think so. But this guy is truly special. He's very competitive. He's got everything in there. The reason I have him lower is because of the Chicago Bears. Until we get a team around him, he's going to continue to have to run. And we already talked about this with Lamar. We talked about it with Kyler. We saw Dak get injured rushing. It's very scary to have a guy like Justin Fields up as high as, his ceiling is number 1, honestly, from what we've seen. He can win matchups by himself. Same argument I had for Lamar. Claypool's not it. Mooney's a great number 2. Komet's starting to come on, but until you see that offensive line solidify and you see some wide receivers come in there, Justin Fields is a little bit lower than me, but you are so damn happy he is on your team. 3 years old, huge man, competitive, and throws an amazing deep ball. Now, hopefully we can just get someone to catch that deep ball, and you might be having a Josh Allen 2.0 on your team.
I was actually going to say this is Lamar Jackson Sr. right here.
Yeah.
I can't even give him the junior title because I don't think that that's accurate because what he's done, I think I don't even need to know the stats, but I'm pretty sure from week 6 to 13 at this moment, Justin Fields was QB1 during that time. I mean, it was just obnoxious what he did and probably got a lot of people to the fantasy playoffs. If you were ballsy enough to start him after these games started going, you started seeing Justin Fields get 20. I don't know how many leagues I had him as my backup quarterback and ended up dropping him because he just wasn't doing it in the beginning of the year. But eventually we knew this was going to come. We knew the talent level was there. We knew this wasn't a bust for the Bears. We just know the Bears aren't that good this year. So it's honestly great to see it this year. So you can kind of start planning for next year with Justin Fields as your quarterback. Maybe you had yourself a Kirk Cousins or someone else on your team that was kind of your quarterback at the time being. And now you have Justin Fields and you know that you got a top 5 QB. I mean, really, year in, year out. It's just, it comes down to the reason he's lower than anyone is mainly because of Joe, but also because of the fact that I actually had him at 6, so I can't say anything. But mainly for the fact it's Chicago, and we don't know what they're gonna do. They don't seem to make moves. They finally have draft picks at least, so hopefully they do something with that. But if their first pick isn't an offensive lineman or a wide receiver, everyone's gonna be mad.
Yes, they are. I put him at number 2 personally. And I was the highest on him in this. And the reasoning behind that is if you're valuing quarterbacks in a trade right now, if your name's not Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes, I don't really think anybody else is close to that trade value, what you're going to have to give up. Because here's the thing, Justin Fields is doing this right now with no supporting cast, with no O-line. What is he going to be when he gets all of those things? Like, I can't even fathom it. Like, I just am impressed with what he's done this season. He's won me over. Now that they've figured out how to use him in the playbook, he's quarterback 5 on the season. The man hasn't played in 2 weeks. So I just there is just a level that he went from last year where we weren't even sure if he was going to be an actual quarterback in the league to now he's got to be up in the top 3 as far as if you're trading for a quarterback right now. you're going to have to pay top dollar to get him on your team. I mean, he is past Josh Allen, in my opinion, in value alone. I mean, the ascension, we haven't even seen the best of Fields. That's what my main problem, like my main thing about him is we haven't even seen the best of him yet.
He truly is exciting to watch. I mean, the fact that he's on my Bears is just beautiful. I just hope he has a full, fruitful career. He's probably going to break all the QB records that Chicago has, which isn't saying much. But yeah,
he's your best quarterback you've ever had.
If we could get a Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison, one of these guys that can actually work with Fields' arm, I mean, I would just be absolutely thrilled to see something like that happen.
And that's on their priority too. So
I think Will Anderson and Carter are on their priority right now.
A lot of mocks have them taking Will Anderson, and I'm like, oh boy. I
say we trade out of it, honestly.
Will Anderson.
I mean, if you could get yourself a first round plus some extras, like maybe a second or third, even just to build this team again. I mean, it's just you need so many pieces, and youth is the best way to do it because you don't have to pay their contracts. So hopefully you can get some draft picks out of that and trade down to the 14th or something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on from the Justin that lives in Chicago to the Justin that lives on the West Coast. Justin Herbert of the Chargers is number 5. The thing that everybody likes about Justin Herbert is that he throws a beautiful deep ball. He makes
I just like his hair.
Well, his hair is also
I didn't mean to
interrupt you. It was very sad when I think they did like an April Fool's prank or something where they fake shaved his head. And thank God he still got the locks, though. Justin Herbert has checked all the boxes that you would want in a first and second year quarterback. We weren't quite sure what he was coming out of Oregon. It was so bad that, the stats were so bad coming out of Oregon that we weren't really sure what he was going to be at the next level. And he comes in and immediately lights up the league with basically nobody. I mean, we're talking like Jalen Guyton and, DeAndre Carter, and he's making things happen. Well, now that he's got Keenan Allen there, he's got Mike Williams locked up long term. He's got Eckler, who is the pass catching back of all pass catching backs, and Gerald Everett. The Gerald Everett renaissance that's happened this season. The offense looks great. He looks great. We have him number 5. I had him, a spot or two lower personally because it just feels like the Chargers are struck with bad luck. I don't know what that. There's nothing to quantify. That's not a stat sheet thing. It's just this team is cursed for some reason, and it seems to be holding him back from reaching his true potential.
Yeah, I think that rib injury he suffered in week 1 or 2 has definitely dampened his numbers a little bit here. I think this team is going to make a playoff run, and I think this number QB8, QB10 right now goes up towards the end of the year. They're going to be passing a lot more. They got some really important games to win. They did win that tiebreaker with Miami, so if they end up tied, they do get in instead of Miami, or at least higher seeding. So they are winning the important games this year, and I think that's what's different about the Chargers, because I feel like they've lost those important and close games in the past. But Justin Herbert's the main reason for it. He just puts the team in a good spot to win. Cameron Dicker, the kicker, is making the kicks too instead of missing them at the last minute. So it's good to see this team win. I've actually really always liked the Chargers. I've never had any ill will towards them. And honestly, it's just good to see his interception numbers are down. His yards are the yards are down, but once again, they've leaned a little bit more on the ground game this year, which is honestly not a bad thing. But Justin Herbert easily going to be up in that kind of top 5 range by the end of the year. I just don't see it changing once some of these other teams start sitting their players and Justin Herbert keeps playing.
Yeah, I like Justin Herbert, man. I have him at 4. Staley and Lombardi just throw the damn ball. That's their game plan, is go out and throw the damn ball. They have the wide receivers to do it. This team, they had a lot of injuries early on. They're starting to come together. They're starting to get healthy. I think it's easier to be down on Justin Herbert right now because of that injury he suffered. I think it was week 3 where he took that nasty shot to the ribs. And I just don't think he has been healthy until now. We're really starting to see him come out of that. And he's just going to continue to throw. And he's got the wide receivers. And as long as the whole cast is there, it's really hard to bet against this guy.
Sure.
Super true.
Yeah. On to number 4. Our third J name in a row. Got 2 more coming. And that is Mr. Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh. Talking about
I
Joseph.
I don't think this is any sort of shock at this point. I think that if anything, Joe Burrow could hypothetically be higher. He's only progressed throughout his career. Rookie year, not so good. And then sophomore, and then now third year, even better. Just literally getting better as the years go on. Obviously, he has a stellar, probably the best receiving core in the league right now with Jamar Chase and Higgins and Boyd. And shoot, even Hayden Hurst getting in the mix there. I really like the fact that he's actually using his legs a little bit more. He's getting a little bit more comfortable since that ACL injury. And you're just going to keep seeing Joe Burrow's name for a long time. I don't see this going anywhere. I personally think he could be higher. I did have him at 4, so I can't complain, but I don't, what's not to like about Joe Burrow?
No, nothing, man. He's got the swag. He's got the receivers. He's got the cast. And my God, now you are starting to see these monster performances start piling up here. So, we've talked about Higgins might be out at the end of this year, but we saw this team play without Chase, who is arguably a much better wide receiver than Higgins. And he did just fine. And Joe Burrow is just one hell of a quarterback. So I love it.
Yeah. There's nothing to hate about him. As long as he has the supporting cast that he has, you're never going to go wrong. It seems like he is able to dictate what he might want changed on the offense, even to make the team better. He heavily lobbied for them to take Jamar Chase in that draft, despite them needing clear O-line help, which hopefully they address, eventually, or Joe is going to keep getting his ass kicked out there. But he has been able to thrive through that. He's only 26 years old. He's going to be amazing for years to come. The Bengals have a good one. If you have Joe Burrow on your team, you're locked in at starter on quarterback for the foreseeable future.
He's actually been doing really good about not getting sacked. So I think he's getting out of the pocket
this year than last year.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He's getting out of the pocket more. I think he realizes when the pocket's breaking down a little bit better now.
Well, and then 2 years ago, obviously, when he took that vicious hit because he couldn't refuse. Like, thankfully, that kind of taught him how to avoid taking hits, because that was a brutal ankle injury that I still have nightmares about sometimes. All right. Before we move on to the next quarterback, I forgot to mention earlier, and I am kicking myself now because I had this written down in my notes. Trevor Lawrence's real name is William.
Oh, William Lawrence?
William Lawrence is his
Bill
actual
Lawrence.
name. And by the way, William Lawrence, not a quarterback name. I get why he changed it to his middle name, which is Trevor. William Lawrence sounds like a poet, not a quarterback. And that probably really is why he, subliminally, that's probably why he was so far down in our rankings. But I just forgot to add that little note in there.
I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable.
Same. Back to the show. Nice. Number 3, our 4th J name in a row, and that is Josh Allen. Joe, talk about our Buffalo Bill.
I love watching Josh Allen play football. This team's weird right now. They started off just absolutely steamrolling people. They're falling off a little bit here. They've had a bunch of injuries on both sides of the football, but Josh Allen just continues to get it done. His worst finish all years was QB 18. Everything else has been, for the most part, top 10. He had an 18 finish and a 14 finish. Everything else, not even top 10, top 5. The dude runs the ball. You can't bring him down. We saw what he did in Kansas City. He can flip a game and score a touchdown in 30 seconds. The guy is so talented. The offense is around him, which is a common occurrence between all these other quarterbacks. But at 26 years old, he's an absolute freak of a human being. He's a freak athlete, and he's going to just win you games.
Yeah, honestly, though, out of all the top 7 quarterbacks that we've talked about here, Josh Allen's offense is not the best. Like, there's Stephon Diggs, there's Gabe Davis, sure, but like, what else really is there? I mean, there's Singletary and James Cook. They're okay. There's nothing to write home about. It's Josh Allen that makes this offense special. And honestly, what he's been able to do with the UCL injury is surprising to me. Like, I thought he was doing a lot worse. He just looks like a normal quarterback with the elbow injury. And the fact that that's even happening right now is surprising to me. Just
when that news came out, I was kind of worried about his whole season, their whole chances, because that's a nasty injury. And really,
it's the same injury he had his rookie year, I believe, as well. The throwing elbows, where he's not able to throw the ball as well. So And honestly, the one thing about him, consistency. There's not a single thing that's changed about him. He's sure he got better his third year. Playing the full seasons obviously help a little bit, and the acquisition of Stephon Diggs surely helped. But he's going to be consistent. He's going to be QB1. He's going to be QB2. He's going to be QB3 each year. Unless there's an injury, I don't see it ever changing.
So I have him down at number 5 because I like to be a contrarian like that. I wouldn't even know if it's called a problem, but my theory is that we've already seen Josh Allen's peak. I don't think we're ever going to get back there. I think when Brian Daboll was there and they were having the offense cooking with gas, that is exactly what that offense needed to look like. Here's the thing. Stephon Diggs, not getting any younger. And we've seen that he refuses, not that he refuses, just the rest of the offense around him doesn't look very good. Gabe Davis is not near what we thought he was going to be. Isaiah McKenzie is not Cole Beasley, as we're finding out this year. The running game is a joke for the time being, at least, until they maybe address that. And I think this offense is headed for a decline if they don't figure out how to inject new talent in there. Diggs covers up a lot of problems because, like, even Dawson Knox, who we thought would be maybe a top 8, top 10 tight end this year, has not come to play as much as we had thought. So my theory is that we've probably already seen the best of Josh Allen. So I'm not saying that he's going to be a disaster. I'm not saying that he can't be Mahomes and work through, an offense with no matter who is out there. I just would love to see it first before I invest him in being a top 2 or top 3 option, because I think if you take Diggs away, this offense is not very good.
I was gonna say it's same conversation with Tua. I mean, you take away Tyreek,
exactly.
You take away Stephon Diggs. Is this offense still explosive? Can Gabe Davis
step up? We don't think
of
Josh Allen like that. That's the thing. We know we don't. He leads the league in interceptions right now. We don't think of him as a player. If you just took one piece away, the offense would be implode. We don't think of him like that. We think of him more of like Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, like those kind of guys. I don't think he's at that level. And I'm not trying to hate on him too hard because 5 is not that bad. But I don't know. I just think we may have already seen the best of him.
Let's get to number 2.
Your opinion, but I disagree with it.
Yeah, I have to say it's impressive to see what he's done with the shoulder injury, and I can't imagine them not wanting to add another wide receiver after this year, whether it be a wide receiver.
Battlehawk shirt.
Thanks. I got it on cheap, and now they're back. But they changed the logo. They tried to get slick. All right, on to number 2. I'm not even going to try because this would be my turn, but I'm not even going to try it. Number 2 is Philadelphia Eagle Jalen Hurts.
What did you say? MVP? MVP? Because that's what I heard.
Favorite.
Yeah, I think it's time to admit, if you haven't already, that Jalen Hurts is better than you thought he was going to be. And it's the main reason that the Eagles are the team that they are because of him. Obviously, A.J. Brown played a big role in this, and we cannot underscore that enough. But what he has done and what he continues to do and completely blow out teams by like the second quarter, I mean, that's pretty much been year in, year out, and it's game in, game out this year. With Jalen Hurts, he's just been putting people on notice and scoring all the points that they need to in the first half, which has honestly helped the rest of the team out and getting some special teams players a chance to play a little bit more. And Nakobe Dean seeing a little bit more reps now before the playoffs. And Jalen Hurts is getting that necessary rest. Now, I want to say I don't like him running the ball as much as he has been. And I think they need to calm that, especially until the playoffs. But at the moment, it's just hard to see. I mean, honestly, I think there's an argument for QB1 right now. I mean, he's QB1 this year. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Spoiler, if you didn't know who QB1 was.
Way to spoil the list, Josh.
As if you didn't know we weren't going to talk about the guy. Could have been Kenny Pickett. It's not. But I don't know. What do you guys got to say about this guy?
You're right. He runs they run some pretty boneheaded QB rushes with him, especially when they're up by like 3 touchdowns. Send him right up the gut. It's kind of dumb. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, the whole puzzle is put together right in front of your face. He has the coaching. He has the line. He has the supporting cast. He has the running game. He has the absolute talent. He's throwing it like crazy, and he gives you the rushing upside. He is I don't know, what do you call it? It's not a trifecta. It's a pentfecta, the 5-prong. He gives you everything there, man. There's nothing to be desired about Jalen Hurts' play this year and for the foreseeable future.
He's also turned the ball over the least amount of times out of all quarterbacks as well, which is
It's true. And
super
this
impressive.
is what we kept saying last season when Jalen Hurts was out there. And we were getting a few pop games from Jalen Hurts last season, but we weren't getting it consistently. And literally, we spent the entire offseason until the draft saying they need to get him a number one wide receiver. Devontae Smith is good. We had no problem with him, but they needed one guy that was going to take the attention away from the run game. I was going to spread out the defense and make them actually fear the passing game. A.J. Brown is that player. He makes every defensive coordinator frustrated because they have to cover him no matter what. Devontae Smith has been eating and feasting in his number 2 role because that's where he belonged all along. And it's just perfectly put together. We have to I hate boosting up the Eagles here, but Howie Roseman did a really great job. He knew exactly what this team needed to do this offseason, and they did it. And the thing is they're going to end up with another top 5 draft pick this year because the Saints suck, and they could just keep building and working, and it's just impressive to see. So, yes, Jalen Hurts, number 2. All right, on to number 1. It should be no surprise to anyone who's played fantasy football for any amount of years at this point. Even if you played in 2013, you should have seen this kid coming, and that's Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs. He is just the most impressive player that we have going. It does not matter who is on the team. It does not matter when Travis Kelce is going to inevitably retire when he's 58 years old. It does not matter because Patrick Mahomes will still be able, even if he's in a wheelchair, he's going to find him in an open route in the end zone, and he's still going to be scoring points because this guy is a magician. When he has the ball, he is able to get plays accomplished that should not be physically possible. He does these weird mechanics that his receivers just happen to know that he's always going to do. I don't know how they practice that, but he always does something every game that makes you go, wow, I cannot believe that that's possible. And no other quarterbacks like that on this list.
Yeah, I honestly, I could make the argument, or I could have tried to make the argument that Jalen Hurts is number 1, but the only reason I could never do that is just because of those weird magician plays. Every time you thought you saw the weirdest play ever by Patrick Mahomes, or just in football in general, he does another one where he just tosses it to the guy, and it's just he's a magician. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. Andy Reid trusts him wholeheartedly, and so that does give him that safety of making. And really, I've never seen one of those stupid passes that he just flips it to people not work or result in an interception. I'm sure there probably is one, but it just seems like they always work for Patrick Mahomes. And obviously they don't win every game. They can't do that. It's football. You're not going to win every single game. But at the same time, if there was an undefeated team in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Chiefs because of Mahomes.
Here's the thing with Mahomes. He is the QB1. He is the only quarterback on our list that I think you can say it doesn't matter what's around him. You could have bad wide receivers. You could have everything, and he's still going to make it work. You could put him on any other offense in the NFL, and they're automatically in playoff contention just because of how talented he is. He spreads the ball around. That's the thing with Patrick Mahomes. Standalone talent is just starts, and you do not have to worry about how that team looks in the future.
That's the ticket.
It's a beautiful thing. So, guys, top 12 quarterbacks. Hopefully you have one of these guys. I mean, we like Kirk Cousins, and we didn't talk about Trey Lance. Trey Lance could be top 5 eventually. Who knows? Purdy might have taken his job. So there's a lot of what ifs down on that list, man. So
I'm actually shocked you guys didn't put Trey Lance in there. I assumed he would be on the list. I think he ended up in the top 15 still. 13. Oh yeah, it was 15, 13, 13. So he ended up as probably 13 or 14, considering he was one of the only other people we had all ranked him in our top 15. But
yeah, I love the idea of trading for Trey Lance because
how does this keep happening, guys? We're just gonna glitch. We're just gonna keep glitching. You know what's great though? I have internet that works. You guys should switch to Charter. This is a great time to talk about Spectrum Internet.
I don't know what the problem is with the internet.
The second you came back in, Joe glitched too.
Well, Joe's has been glitching this whole time.
Yeah, it
but
really
we
has.
haven't wanted to say it. I don't know what mine is. Mine has like this weird like hiccup that it does where it just like kicks everything. I don't. It might be something to do with the computer, and maybe that's what it does after a certain amount of time. But we'll just cut all this out.
You can cut it. All right,
Yeah.
Joe, continue your Trey Lance rant.
I mean, Trey Lance, he's got all the tools to be an absolute stud quarterback for your team. And with the supporting cast that he has on the 49ers, we keep talking about the supporting cast, but they've got it. He steps right in and he's got it. And plus with his rushing abilities, you know, we could be talking the same way we were talking about Justin Fields, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Well, sorry, Josh, I'm going to say Jalen Hurts. But if you mix the talent, if he does have that arm talent with the rushing ability and the supporting cast, he could easily be up there too. So I love acquiring Trey Lance. Float some trades out. People are very down on this man right now.
I actually don't dislike that for the simple fact that they got McCaffrey. If it weren't for McCaffrey, I wouldn't like it as much. But at the same time, we don't know what this is going to be. And the problem is you're probably going to pay too much for Trey Lance, and that's why I wouldn't do it. But I like the idea of it because we still have yet to see him. And obviously they're going to try and get him. I mean, he's had really shitty luck to start his career. He's played, 2 full games, I think, if that. So it will be interesting to see. And honestly, I think Jimmy G is going to give him a run. It's going to have to be a competition. They can't just keep saying Trey Lance is the starter. Trey Lance is the starter. I think it's going to have to be a competition next year. But I mean, Garoppolo's coming off the injury as well. So and then maybe Purdy's even in the conversation. San Francisco's it's such a weird team that like Mr. Irrelevant is relevant because that team's that good.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of guys. I mean, we have Kirk down on this list. He's tied to Justin Jefferson. You know, he's a very solid option. You've got guys like Geno, Matthew Stafford. Like, we just don't know the future of these guys. They could be top 12 options next year, but it's very hard to place them anywhere near the top 12 at this moment.
Yeah. And redraft for sure. But at the same time, Dynasty, you're thinking of the future as well.
Yeah.
Well, can I give one that we haven't been probably talking about? That's Jared Goff of the Lions. I actually think that the Lions would be very smart to not go after a replacement for him, at least for the next couple of years. I think that while Jared Goff may not necessarily be the QB1 that we're all hoping for, but his weapons, his cast, like, it cannot be ignored. He's got an amazing cast, and he has been very serviceable in a lot of games this season. I mean, a lot more than some of these other quarterbacks that are around this range. I mean, he the only thing that's been holding him back is the touchdowns, and that have all been going to Jamal Williams. If he had
single one,
if he even took half of those away, which is probably 6 or 7, I don't even know what he's up to at this point. He would probably be QB7 on the season, which is bonkers to think of Jared Goff that way. But this offense, just the way that it works, is very, very good. And
I believe it's 14 for Jamal, by the way. So you're right.
Yeah. If you gave Jared Goff 7 more touchdowns based on like just pop passes in the end zone
or the balls that should have been touchdowns that got stuffed on the 1 yard line that Jamal Williams ended up inevitably taking over.
Exactly. Like, you're talking about a player here that could easily be in the top 7. He's only 28 years old. If they play this correctly, which it's the Lions, so that's a stretch, he could be a guy here for the next 5 years that makes this team a perennial playoff contender if they can just figure out the defense. I mean, that's the biggest problem here.
I think
it's really funny. Oh, sorry. But it's really funny that you shared a brain with me on this because when I started writing this list out, I said I'm putting Jared Goff at 12, and then I started making the list, and I was like, all right, I don't think I can get Goff at 12, but your argument is very sound.
I couldn't do it either, but like it wouldn't hurt. It would make sense if somebody's giving him away this offseason, you might want to go take him if you're looking for a quarterback out there.
I think the problem is you're getting him for really one more year in this sense, unless he really proves that he deserves. Because I think the Lions can actually get rid of him after next year and not have to pay a premium price.
I don't see why they would. I mean, obviously they're not going to give him a $250 million extension or some crazy nonsense like that. But if they can, discuss with him and make him agree that, like, hey, anywhere else you go in the league, you're going to be a backup. Here, you're going to be a starter. Maybe they could get him to agree to a reasonable extension and build the rest of that team with money and make this into an actual great team. I think McVay threw away Jared Goff way too soon. I think that he should have maybe kept him. That's all I'm saying. Stafford may not even play again for the Rams because of that neck injury. Jared Goff may have another 5-year career here.
Yeah, I just have a feeling they're not going to pass up this top 5 pick that they have coming up and not getting a quarterback. But what they should do is draft that quarterback and actually let him sit instead of rushing him in and throwing him in, because that's what's happened for Lions quarterbacks for years past. It's always just throw the guy in, see what happens, and then it's just you set him up for failure. But if you put Jared Goff in there, who is a veteran, who is a team leader, and let him say this and tell the rookie, listen, this is Jared Goff's quarterback room. This is his team. You're going to be sitting this full year. You might sit the next year, and have someone with an attitude going into it and knowing that, then I think you can actually see a good Jared Goff next year. But I think after that, it's pretty much over.
The Lions actually could very easily go 4-0 to end the season and make it to the playoffs. So
hey, we all called them beating the Vikings last week, and guess what they did? They beat the Vikings. They're going to keep beating good teams because they should have won more games so far.
I think it's the Bears, Packers, Jets, and it's a good lineup. They could easily go 4-0.
It's Packers, and I think they play the Bears to end the season as well.